So question one, and we can label these things. So we can see that the marginal revenue curve is this curve that is half of the demand curve because this is a monopoly situation. We can see that the profit maximizing quantity is the point where the marginal cost and the price meet, interact. We can then find the profit maximizing price by going up and seeing where this where the where there's a vertical asymptote between the profit maximizing quantity and the demand curve, and then we can go to the left and see what that price is. We can see the profit, and we can find this by finding the area between the price and the average cost, and so this is the profit. But then also because this is a monopoly, there's a dead weight loss. Question two, so production shift for a competitive firm. So in the competitive market, an increase in price would raise profits high above the average cost curve. So this would increase profits for these competitive firms in the short run, and that's important in the short run. So in the short run, these increase in profits would encourage other competitive firms to enter the market, but this would increase production overall through the market. But in the long run, this would follow the cyclical nature of a competitive cost industry, and so the price would eventually, if a monopoly increased the price above the average cost, production would decrease. And this difference is accounted for by the overall control that monopolies have on markets. So monopolies will always be able to make some kind of profit because of their marginal revenue curve is always below the demand curve. So this ensures that any variable price will result in a profit for monopolies, even if they raise prices to exorbitant amounts. Consumers will still demand their products. Question three asks, so first of all, monopolies and competitive firms follow the rule marginal cost equals marginal revenue. The difference comes in how companies follow this rule. Of course, because monopolies have such market power, they have the ability to follow this rule a lot differently than competitive firms. And so with the current production rate of Rapido, so in the example, it says that market analysts are telling the CEO of Rapido to decrease prices by 20%, and they would make more profits. So we can see that I just made these two kind of basic graphs. They're not very representative of anything. So in this example, Rapido has a they're producing at a quantity where the marginal cost is less than the marginal revenue. And we can see Apollo, it was saying that Apollo marketing experts concluded that if they increase prices by 20%, profits would rise. So in this example, Apollo has set a marginal cost greater than the marginal revenue. So if we think that Apollo has set a quantity over here at maybe like 2.5, we can see that this marginal cost is greater than the marginal revenue. So if they increase price, so if they went from and decreased production, and they would shift down the marginal cost curve towards the marginal revenue, and the price would go up, as you can see, up to probably like 4. And we would see this Apollo monopoly maximizing profits and maximizing production to a point where they are by increasing. So we can see this happen in two different scenarios. Both scenarios are very similar in that their marginal costs and their marginal revenues are unbalanced, and by increasing or decreasing their costs, they can balance them out.
Question 4. Monopolists charge a higher markup when demand is highly inelastic, and monopolists charge a higher markup when customers have fewer goods substitutes. It's the same thing. If the demand is inelastic, then that means customers don't have other substitutes to go to. Someone's selling part C. Someone's selling a new trendy shoes because the same type of shoes cannot be found anywhere else. Therefore, the demand is inelastic. In a movie theater, you're gonna buy the popcorn with a higher price because, again, it's inelastic. You can't really go outside you can't really get food from the movie theater. While in the streets of New York, you can go and get food from outside. Um, and then a pharmaceutical company selling a new powerful antibiotic because, again, the demand inelastic because people have to get that antibiotic. Question 5. This is true when marginal revenue equals marginal cost. That's when a monopoly is producing the quantity to profit, maximizing their profit. Question 6, part A. So some of the savings will actually go to the consumers in form of lower prices. This is because The monopoly want to produce quantity at marginal cost equals to marginal revenue. So if the marginal cost is going down, that means the marginal revenue would go down. And the price is set at marginal revenue, therefore the prices would be cheaper and the consumers will be getting a little bit of the savings. And this is the same effect in a competitive industry. You see exactly the same thing. There'll be a decrease in marginal cost would decrease the equilibrium quantity.
So question 7 asks, where will profits be higher when demand for a patented drug is inelastic or elastic? So profits will be higher when the demand is inelastic because this means that the firm can charge a much higher price and still sell the same quantity. So which of these two drugs is more likely to be important? That's the inelastic because customers will still buy the product even if the price increases greatly. Now, if a pharmaceutical company is trying to decide what kind of drugs to research, they will want to invent drugs with few good substitutes because that way they can drive up the price without worrying about losing customers to competition. And this answer in part C is opposite what an all-wise benevolent government agency would do because driving up the price like this is detrimental for everyone involved, including both consumers and producers. Question 8 asks true or false. When a monopoly is maximizing its profits, price is greater than marginal cost. This is true because marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost and the price can be driven up. For a monopoly producing a certain amount of output, price is less than marginal revenue. That is false. When a monopoly is maximizing its profits, marginal revenue equals marginal cost. True. If a government regulator sets a fixed price for a monopoly lower than the unregulated price, it is true that it does raise the marginal revenue of selling more output. In the United States, government regulation of cable TV cut the price of premium channels down to average cost. That is false. And when consumers have many options, monopoly markup is lower. That is true. A patent is a government-created monopoly. True. So question 9 gives P equals 50 minus Q, a fixed cost of 100 and a marginal cost of 10. So using this information, I calculated total profit for each value in the following table and then plotted profit versus quantity. So total profit equals total revenue minus total cost. So that would be 50 minus Q times Q minus 100 plus 10Q. So you can see the graph in the bottom left.
Number 10, you're assessing these unique monopolies. And so basically, which we'll go into more detail with how you do this in question number 11, but you use these formulas to figure out step by step the profit. And based on the profit, you can figure out whether or not these businesses should even begin to exist. And so in case A, there's a significant profit, so you should definitely go into that business. With part B, there's a bigger profit, so you should absolutely go into this business. But with part C, your profit is in the negative, which means that they shouldn't even start up to begin with. Now, with the large, question number 11, first with part A, case A, you use the marginal revenue formula, and then you plug in the marginal cost into the marginal revenue formula to solve for Q. And once you solve for Q, you solve for P. And then once you have that, you can solve for TR, which is just P times Q. And then once you have that, you can multiply the marginal cost times Q to figure out the total costs added on with the fixed cost, and then you get your total profit, which in case A is 300, in case B is 912.50, and in case C is 700. Then, based on the formula that's given for percent markup, you can figure out that case A has a markup of 200%, case B at 450%, and case C 500%. And then with case C, in a way that you can explain to your grandma, everybody has to deal with trade-offs, even monopolists. So in the case of case B, if you were to raise that price higher, even though it's a monopoly, fewer people would buy the product. And unlike with case B, in case C, they found raising due to the marginal cost, raising the price was worth it, even though they would have fewer customers.